So basically we know that what is the need of a firewall. A firewall is a security device and it is capable of doing the filtering. What needs to be filtered, it purely depends on the company's requirement. It is not that only the malicious content is going to be filtered. Even some genuine content could also be filtered out, because from the company's perspective that is not the traffic it is intended for permitting. Either the traffic may be from initiated from your internal network to the external network, or from the external network to the internal network. It doesn't matter. Okay, what I mean to say, you have you have an organization and you have the public network, and you might also be having some branch offices somewhere it got connected. Now any traffic which is leaving your infrastructure or any traffic which is coming to your infrastructure needs to be screened. So according to the company policy, you may be identifying some application and you have to allow them or you have to deny them. So what a security device or what a firewall is going to be doing is, according to the instructions, according to the configurations what has been done on the firewall, the filtering is going to be happening. What type of filtering? I think I have already told you in your checkpoint class itself. What is that? You have a packet filter, you have a proxy, you also have the stateful inspection firewall. Then we're also talking about something called as what? A next generation of firewall. So packet filters are going to be filtering the traffic based on the layer 3 and layer 4 header. I'm not going in detail of that. Okay, so I have shared you the video link. Because of that you can go through that. So packet filters are stateless in nature. They are going to be doing the filtering according to the layer 3 and layer 4 header information. Because it is stateless, every directional traffic needs to be permitted. What I mean to say, the request also needs to be explicitly permitted, the response also needs to be explicitly permitted. Without that, the communication between the client and the server is not going to be happening through the security device. Now again, the proxy firewall is acting at layer 7. Because of that, all the traffic, all the communication which happens between the client and server will be intercepted by the proxy. Because the proxy is acting at layer 7, all the headers as well as the payload is going to be visible from the proxy. Because of that, it is quite possible the filtering can be done based on the any layer header, even based on the content information. So proxy is more powerful, right? So proxy is more granular as well, but compared to packet filter firewall, it is more granular. But because of the granularity, because of the deep packet inspection, because the firewall is acting at all the layers, it has to look into the content of each and every header as well as the payload. The time taken to process the packet will be more. What I mean to say, it will be increasing the latency. If you have any application which is sensitive to this kind of a delay, cannot tolerate this kind of a delay, obviously those services are going to be disrupted. So proxy is more granular but not faster. Packet filter is faster but it is not efficient. So that's why we came up with something called as an interim solution, what is called which is called as what? A stateful inspection firewall. Basically it is a packet filter only, but it also maintains some additional information with which the return traffic can be permitted even without the rule. What I mean to say, when I have a packet filtering firewall, you have to permit the request either from internal to external. Same way, the return traffic also needs to be permitted by your explicit rule. Only then the traffic flow could be possible. When it comes to stateful inspection firewall, you can permit the request. That is what you have to do. Okay, give me a minute. Let me connect from my phone. That way it will be better. 1 minute, I'm connecting through my phone. Sometimes this happens. Is that audible now? I'm connected to the phone. Now again connecting from the laptop to share the screen. Okay. Okay. Right. Can you please mute yourself? Lot of noise is coming. You're at home, huh? That's okay. That's okay. How many dogs you have? Oh, okay, okay, fine, fine, fine. Okay, 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 fine. So, what is that called? The stateful inspection firewall. I mean to say that it is also a packet filter with additional set of informations tracked and stored in it. Because of that, what is the benefit? When I have a packet filter, I have to write an explicit rule to permit the request. I also need to have an explicit rule to permit the response. Why is that? Because the packet filter does not understand the state of a connection. What do you mean by a state of a connection? Any communication is a question and answer based. Something like the client will be requesting for something, the server will be responding back with the data whatever the client has requested for. So these two related flows, right? So every direction, each directional communication is called as a flow. With respect to a session, the bidirectional flows which are related to each other is called as a session. Okay, so the packet filters doesn't have any idea about the state of a connection or the session detail. Because of that, you are required to configure the rules explicitly on each and every direction. Keep this in mind, because for VSX also policies concept remains same. Okay, the only thing is how the product will be working. So today you are having the class by 5 o'clock, right? This you can relate them. Okay, so you can relate those things. Policies, there is no change. Even if you know the checkpoint policy, working on the policy with respect to VSX is not going to be different at all. Anyway, so a state of the connection is not going to be maintained by your packet filtering firewall. Because of that, explicit configuration of the rules on both the direction is required. Right? When it comes to stateful inspection firewall, it is also a packet filter. So the information which is available on layer 3 and layer 4 header will be used for processing the data. But if the request is permitted, the firewall knows that if any packet received on the other direction is a response for the permitted request or not. What do you mean to say? If the question is asked, can you please tell me what is the time now? If the response is a time, the firewall can understand that this is the response for the permitted request. I no need to have an explicit rule to permit this traffic. Why? Before the request is getting forwarded, the firewall is going to be keeping the track of the information or the request what has been permitted to pass through in a table called as what? State table. So in the state table, you will maintain the set of requests what has been permitted and what is the set of replies we are expecting. So based on that, the requests and responses are going to be allowed. So it will be efficient than your packet filter, faster than your proxy firewall. These were the three different technologies we were using it. But after the introduction of next generation firewall and after the changes happened in your the applications behavior, how the applications are accessible now. See, earlier days, like if you take your mobile phone, you wanted to access a Facebook, then you will be having a FB application in your mobile phone. You wanted to access Twitter, then you have to install a client software for Twitter. Then you wanted to access an email, then email application client needs to be installed. Am I right or not? Whatever the app or whatever the application that you wanted to access on your mobile phone, the respective client software is supposed to be installed on your mobile. Only then that application can be accessible. If you take the earlier scenarios, the same thing was there. Like what I mean to say, if you want to access an application, say application A, the respective client is supposed to be installed on the on your Windows client PC or Linux client PC. The respective client is required. For example, if I have an Oracle database, I need to have the Oracle client. Only then I'll be able to connect to the database and then I'll be able to access the data. Understand? So what I mean to say, every application would require a respective client software in earlier scenario. Now what happened? We came into something called as what? A webification of the application. What do you mean by that? Webification is nothing but any application, once it got webified, using a web browser, you can access those applications. You understand what I'm saying? Till this point is clear? Okay. So any application, Yes, yes, it is going on. You can see that on top. Can you see that? On my mouse pointer, you can see that. That world symbol is there, right? Here, see my mouse pointer. Can you see them or not? How come? I don't know. Oh, okay. Let me disconnect and reconnect it from my PC. I just joined once again. Can you see my screen now? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So you here, can you follow my mouse pointer? Here now you can see this one. Now I have only option of stop recording, which means recording is going on. Now the meaning of webification is nothing but once any application has been webified, that application doesn't require a dedicated client software to be installed. All you can do is using a browser, you can access that application. You understand? So because of that, what happens if you have multiple applications hosted in different places accessible through internet? Let's assume like this, right? Now you have internal users, right, who are trying to access those applications, but according to your company policy, you're saying that Facebook not supposed to be allowed. Just for an example, okay, the Facebook not supposed to be allowed, whereas Twitter is allowed. You cannot go and do this one with the social networking. What I mean to say, even if you are allowing Facebook, not Facebook chat, not Facebook games, that is not supposed to be allowed. Facebook is a website or web application from your perspective. What do you claim that? Okay. Is that true? It is a web application, right? We are accessing that application over the web. That's why we are calling it as a web application. Website is going to be basically, it will be having some data being displayed, and then you will be having some dynamic data. You have static website, you have dynamic website. Whereas web application is an application meant for doing some activity. For example, chat is an application, right? You have a game, it's an application. Your Facebook is a collection of multiple applications. So within your Facebook, you have everything as an independent application. I'll show you that. If I go to my Facebook account, where is that? See? Now if I go to chat, this is an application. Can you see that? This is my application. Then if I go and try to go the stories, again that is an application. Now if I go for the pages, that's a separate application. Here, even if I share it, it's a separate application. The sharing is a separate application, and that application is being called over here. You understand? So what happens, this Facebook is a collection of multiple applications related to Facebook. Okay, now I just tried finding the documentation for you, VSX. That might be helpful for you from the VSX. Morning I checked it. Can you see, do you have this document with you or not? Okay. R80s will be there. I think this is also the old. This is R80 VSX. Probably you will be having this one. That's why. Okay, so you have these applications, right? Now to access this application, am I using any client softwares here other than the browser? Am I using that? No. Using the same web browser, I can also access the Twitter. So that is again a different web application altogether. So for any kind of an applications in current scenario, all you need is a browser, nothing else. Okay. Now in this case, how in the world you will be able to filter the traffic? I have a firewall. In a typical rule-based firewall, whatever you have it, we used to write the traffic to be permitted from source IP, source port, destination IP, destination port, and the protocol number. Based on this only we will be allowing or denying the traffic. So either I can allow the traffic meant for TCP 443 or I can deny the traffic which is meant for TCP 443. So if I am allowing TCP 443, that means the traffic traveling through your TCP 443 to any of these web servers are allowed. But if you wanted to take a call, like only the social networking sites are going to be allowed or denied, that you can achieve with your URL filtering software. That you can do it. But my requirement is not that. I have the Facebook application is being accessible for my internal users. Yes, I would like to do them. I would like to allow them to access it. But I don't want them to be always active on the Facebook. If something is going on, let them read the wall. Let them go through the wall. But I don't want them to like any post. I don't want to comment them. I don't want to share them. I don't want them to chat. So, do you understand? See, all of them are individual application integrated with your Facebook. You're getting my point, right? So if I'm going to be filtering the traffic based on the port number, I will not be able to differentiate these applications at all because all of them are accessible through TCP 443. What's the point then? I will not be able to differentiate those applications. With the help of next generation firewall, whatever the traffic is going through the browser, it is not going to be simply considered as web or SSL traffic. You have the ability of collecting the data and classifying what applications traffic is that. You understand? So that is one of the key points that you need to understand with your next generation firewall. One more simple point you need to remember, next generation firewall is also a stateful inspection firewall. So all you have to do is permit the request, the response will be permitted automatically. So the next thing what we need to understand, so the next generation firewalls are capable of identifying what applications traffic is passing through your firewall, whether you want to permit or deny, regardless of the browser or regardless of the port number to which it is going on. Though it is being sent to TCP 443 or though it is being sent on TCP 80, still I have to take a call what application traffic through the browser is allowed or not. You can do that one with the help of next generation firewall. This is one of the difference with the first generation. The next thing is what? Now the scenario is changed entirely. Now I do remember that while I was doing some projects and all, when I go to the site, I'll be having a desktop. There will be a fixed cubicle. I'll not be able to move around. I can move, but I cannot carry the desktop always with me. If I have to go to the conference room, then I have to do some presentation. There will be a set of PCs and I have to copy my presentation, then use the pen drive, then present it. That's how we used to do it. Now think about the methods through which you are accessing your corporate resources. Now you are working from home. Is that a company given laptop you are using it or your own? Okay. Now how the company can ensure that you are connecting from a PC which is completely protected? One. And what is the assurance that the data whatever you are downloading on your laptop is not going to be used illegally? Okay. You are sitting today at your home, tomorrow you might be going to your in-laws' home. Who knows? How do I track you? Right. So today you are working from your home with your PC. Tomorrow, since you are at your in-laws, due to certain urgent call, you went there. You are not able to come back because of that. You are connecting to your office from the in-laws PC. Now, these kind of variations are possible, right? Now, we have to have a mechanism. The methodology is completely changed. Earlier days, fixer cubicle, laptop, very rare. Probably in top level management, they used to have the laptop. Now, laptop is a basic requirement, not the PCs. It is not the only thing. Now, people are connecting using mobile phones. They are using the tablets. They can connect from any kind of a device. Now, ensuring the security and allowing the access to the genuine employees to their resources needs to be done. Only then your office work can be executed. So, the company has the responsibility of identifying simply not the traffic using the port number alone. I also need to track which user initiated this request. Understand? See, the one thing what we understood is what application it is. Now the next thing is who the user is. No, identifying the traffic only based on the IP addresses is not going to be the case today. Because if it is going to be the case, then obviously everyone has to come to office. That is not going to be happening. But even before that, we started implementing this. What do you mean by that? See, if you take a company which has presence all across the world, for some reason, one of the employees is visiting India. Let's assume that he is working from US and he has come to India to do some work. Now, his IP address will be different, correct? On his office location and on home location, his IP address will be different. Now, he has come here, he is connecting from Chennai office or Bangalore office or Hyderabad office. Now, the IP address is not going to be the same. Am I right? In this case, how in the world we will be able to identify the traffic is coming from RAM or the traffic's. No, I'm getting a call. Probably that might be the reason. 1 minute. Let me attend the call. Hello? Huh? No one called. Okay. I'll be busy till 5:45. Then 7 o'clock I have another class. 5:45 my classes gets over. 5:45 to 7 I'll be free. Hmm. 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 Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. I started getting the call. My Mac is also connected, na. So probably that might be the reason the call got. Yeah. I'm just joining once again. Okay. Oh, my screen is visible, right? Hopefully. Okay. Now, so we have the responsibility of identifying the application because the application behavior got changed. Okay, well and good. I'm going to be identifying that using the application recognition. The second thing is because the behavior or from where the users are going to be accessing, from which device the users are going to be accessing from, I have the difficulty of identifying the users just by using their IP addresses. Now we have to identify who the user is. That is also a requirement. I also need to track which device the user is connecting from. What is the status of the device? Is there any antivirus? Or the user is connecting from a company given laptop or a different laptop? What is the policy that I have to apply for the user? He's a genuine user accessing the genuine application but not from the authorized laptop or an authorized machine, but he is connecting from a different device altogether. So this is called as context security or context filtering. The user is connecting from home, well and good, but the laptop is not a company given. Then I might be giving him only the read-only access. This is a different policy altogether. But the next generation firewall is capable of tracking the application, capable of tracking the users, capable of tracking the devices. All are possible. Of course, there is also some more thing we can do with this content filtering, like we can do the deep packet inspection, advanced malware protection. Here in Juniper we call it as advanced threat protection, ATPs. In Cisco we call it as AMPs. Okay, here we call it as, what is it called, advanced threat protection. So now we have the ability of identifying the application, tracking the user, looking into the content, like what files are being exchanged or what file is being downloaded, is there is any malware associated with that or not. Like that we will be able to do that. You understand? So that's where the next generation firewall comes into picture. Of course, as the requirement, as the enterprise accessing behaviors are changing, the application's working culture got changed, the user's behavior got changed. We also need to have respective filters with which we will be able to identify the genuine traffic and meant for the genuine application coming from an authorized user. That is what is going to be achieved by having a next generation firewall with you. Got the point? Okay. Now, so this is what the next generation firewall, the features of it. Now again, so before you understand or before you start configuring any of the policies or any of the configurations within your Juniper firewall, you have to be familiar with certain terminologies and the architectures of it. What is that architecture? I'm just starting up the presentation. Okay. Okay, Juniper SRX firewall, my email ID, and SRX architecture is what we are going to be discussing about. Whenever I'm talking about an architecture, what do you mean by that? What is that architecture we are talking about? Architecture is nothing but what are all the components are there and how they got connected to each other and how the traffic is going to be flowing from one interface to another interface. We must know that. Now, we have a firewall, right? How the traffic is going to be received, what is the component we are using for receiving the traffic. Same way, how the traffic is going to be sent out via another interface, what is that going to be happening between the ingress interface and the egress interface, what process is going on. If you take any of the logic, say for example, I have the firewall, right? The firewall is going to be having multiple interfaces, that's what we know. So we have the interfaces connected to different networks, and this is where I have my brilliance. This is where my brain is available, where the complete set of configurations with respect to the filtering, based on what the filtering is going to happen, we are feeding it to the firewall. Firewall has brain, but it doesn't have any knowledge. You as an administrator, you have to transform your company security policy into a network security policy. So basically what happens, whatever the traffic that you receive on one of the interface, right? Now we receive it on ingress interface. The traffic will flow through this engine where the filter can happen. If the filtering permits the traffic, then the traffic can be sent out via the egress interface, right? So this is the key part. You are receiving the traffic on one of the interface. It has to undergo the screening process. According to the screening functionality, if the traffic is going to be identified as genuine, then it can be permitted to pass through on the other interface. There are so many processes are there in between. Now, the architecture is means nothing but your firewall is made up of many components, hardware components as well as the logical components. Put together, they are going to be working as a single entity to do the filtering as it is traveling through it. You're getting my point, right? So you have so many components. You have hardware components, you have software components. They are going to be working together, right? And that we are trying to understand how these components are going to be working together. What is the bonding between these components, right? Then how the traffic will flow through. That's your packet flow. First, we are trying to understand the architecture. The architecture has many components in it. The first and foremost component, what we are going to be discussing, right? This is what understanding the Juniper SRX architecture. Then we will get into the packet flow. Now, so there are so many there are so many components which are there within your Juniper SRX architecture. Whether you know or not, I'm not very sure. The Juniper SRX firewall is actually being migrated. What I mean to say, Juniper has acquired a company called as NetScreen, right? The NetScreen had many products like NetScreen Firewall, NetScreen IDP, NetScreen Secure Access. They had many products, and those products have been acquired by Juniper. Juniper has a clear policy stating what? All of the Juniper devices supposed to be having a single operating system, which is nothing but Juniper operating system or Junos. That's the name of the operating system. Okay. Now what they have done after acquisition of NetScreen Firewall, was there a question? All, anything. Yes. OS is same. Like assume that you have a plug point, right? You have a 5 amps plug point. If you want to connect a tube light, you can connect a tube light. If you want to connect a fan, you can connect a fan. You want to connect your laptop, you can connect your laptop. So your Junos operating system is all in one operating system. So depending on the hardware on which the Junos is operating, the respective packages could be installed. If you have SRX, the security package will be installed. If you have switches, switching package will be installed. But the base operating system is the same. So the working methodology is also going to be identical across all of the platforms in Juniper, but the architecture will be different. It is not identical for all. We don't have something called as zones in switches. We don't have it. Whereas in switches we have VLANs. Can we create VLANs over here? No, we cannot. You understand? Right. So the access layer VLANs, you cannot configure it on your what is it called on your firewalls. It's not going to be happening at all. So what I mean to say, there are so many components, and as I said earlier, Juniper has acquired a company called as NetScreen, from where they got the NetScreen firewall, NetScreen IDP, NetScreen secure access. All of the NetScreen products were running with an operating system called as ScreenOS. Whereas Juniper's policy says that all of the Juniper products, whether they developed or it is an acquired product, they have to be running with a single operating system, which is called as Junos operating system or Juniper operating system. But my point here is, when they have migrated this, what is it called? When they were migrating from ScreenOS to Junos operating system, still they have migrated the architecture also, because the architecture is the power of your Juniper firewall or ScreenOS firewall, NetScreen firewall. They don't wanted to take out that architecture. Okay, they wanted to incorporate the same architecture but under the Junos operating system. You're getting my point, right? So there are certain components within your architecture. So what are all the components? First of all, see, as we have seen on the whiteboard, if you don't have an interface, okay, if you don't have an interface, how do you get connected to a network? I normally say that the interface is going to be compared with the door for a room. If I don't have a door, what would happen? You will not be able to enter into the room, or you will not be able to exit from the room. It's not possible, right? So interface provides connectivity to a network. Because of that, any traffic to that network can be sent by the firewall. Same way, any traffic needs to be sent to the firewall from that network could also be possible through the help of the interfaces. Correct? Now the interface is also classified into two types. One is physical, the other one is logical. So physical interfaces provide actual connectivity to the network, whereas the logical interfaces, when it comes to Junos, logical interfaces are mandatory, unlike your Cisco products. Like what? Physical interfaces, you configure the physical characteristics. Logical interfaces, you will configure the logical components. What do you mean by that? The speed is the characteristics of a physical interface or the logical interface? Logical interface, you have to imagine it. Okay, imagine that you have an interface. Now, when I'm talking about the speed, is that the characteristics of the physical interface, or is that the characteristic of a logical interface? Obviously, it should be physical. Then how about the duplex? Half duplex, full duplex. Those are also going to be part of the physical. How about the IP address? IP address is physical or logical? No. What I'm asking is, IP address is logical or physical? That's the logic. That's the question I'm asking. It is logical, right? So what I mean to say, every interface will have the physical characteristics as well as logical parameters as well. You understand? So if you assign an IP address to an interface, it's a logical component. If you're configuring the speed of that interface, that is going to be physical characteristics. Now what I mean to say, in Juniper, even if you have a physical interface, if you wanted to configure any logical parameters, that you cannot configure it on the physical interface. You are forced to create a logical interface, which is called as units in Juniper. Okay? For example, if I have gig Ethernet 0/0/0, this is the interface. It's a physical interface. So you can define the speed, you can define the MTU, you can define the duplex, you can get into the interface and you can do that. But if you wanted to configure an IP address, getting into this interface and configuring the IP address is not possible. What you have to do is, you have to create a logical interface based out of your physical interface. Only then the logical parameters can be configured over there. You getting my point? Like, if you're going to be configuring... Correct. It's not only the IP address, any logical thing. Any logical configurations or logical parameters will go into the logical interface. Any physical characteristics will go into the physical interface. Got it? Okay. Apart from this also, we have some interfaces like loopback. Like we have tunnel interfaces. Like we have LT. Like we have GRE. Like we have so many service interfaces as well. Those are all going to be considered as a logical interfaces. Even then, these logical interfaces are going to be created for providing some specific services on that firewall. So LT interfaces are meant for terminating something called as a logical tunnel. GRE interfaces are created for terminating or configuring the GRE tunnels on the firewall. Loopback interfaces provides the loopback interface with which we'll be able to check the reachability or to check the TCP IP stack is working properly or not. Do you understand? So this is what we need to understand. GRE, loop this. So we have loopback interfaces, we have the logical interfaces, we also have the physical interfaces. So physical interfaces provides connectivity to the physical network. Logical interfaces, basically they provide services. Okay? Whereas the logical units are going to be part of the physical interfaces within which you will be able to configure some logical parameters on it. Got it? Okay. So that's the first type of first component we were discussing about. So first component is what? Interfaces. Where is my presentation? Okay. Right? This is not the presentation. What is my other presentation? Did I close it or not? Here it is. So I have interfaces. So interfaces are the first component of your Juniper SRX architecture. We know that there are two types of interfaces. One is the physical interface, the other one is the logical interface. Physical interfaces provide connectivity to the physical network. Logical interfaces may provide some specific services to the device. Logical units, which are also considered as the logical interface, which are going to be created based out of a physical interface for what? To configure the logical parameters for the physical interface. So logical parameters like your IP addresses can be configured only using the logical units. Okay, I'll show you the demonstration so that you will be able to understand them. Okay, that's the first component you need to understand. The second component is called as what? Zones. What is a zone? Zone itself is the logical component. For example, let's say that since you worked on the checkpoint firewall, okay, probably you may remember, I'm not very sure. What is the purpose of a policy? We configure the rules within that as part of the policy with which we will be able to permit or deny the traffic. That's the maximum we will be able to do it, correct? So we have the policies, we are permitting or denying. But where we are binding it, we are not binding anywhere. Any traffic flowing through your checkpoint firewall will be inspected by the set of policies. But if you go to the Cisco, again the same policies are there. That policies needs to be bound to interfaces on a specific direction, inbound or outbound direction. When I say this one, if it is associated on the inbound direction, then the traffic filtering will happen while the traffic is received on that interface. If the same policy is bound to the outbound direction, same interface, outbound direction, then the filtering is going to happen based on the policy what has been associated to that interface while sending out via that interface. Is that clear? So inbound policies, outbound policies. Okay. Now I have a firewall, right? So similar set of requirements are there for three interfaces, and I have two WAN interfaces, WAN 1 and WAN 2. This is my LAN 1, LAN 2 and LAN 3. Now what is that you have to do? You have to create the policy. Similar requirement for LAN 1, LAN 2, LAN 3. Then what you have to do, you might be creating a single policy and you will bind that bind the same access list to L1, L2 and L3. Or you may be creating a separate set of policies, and one policy is going to be associated on the L1 interface and then LAN 2 interface another access list, L3 interface as another access list. You can do like that. But what will happen if you wanted to do some changes and that changes needs to be replicated on all the individual policies? You understand what I'm saying? So to overcome this, if I'm going to be having multiple interfaces, more than one interface, they require the same level of treatment with respect to permitting or denying the traffic. I can keep them in a logical component called as a zone. Now, zone concept is also there in checkpoint. I don't know whether you read that or not, because until in 2 years back means you would have gone through R75 or R77. By the time I think we were not having anything called zones. Now in the newer versions we also have zones. Okay, fine, that doesn't matter. The concept of the zone is nothing but a logical component. Zone is a logical component with which you will be able to group the set of interfaces. It can be physical or logical, it doesn't matter for me. I have the set of interfaces, I can group them together through the help of a zone. What is the benefit of it? I apply the policy to the zone, not to the interfaces. Now what happens? Any interface which is part of the zone is going to be inheriting those configurations, or what is it called? The policies. So because of that, I no need to bind the policy to all the interfaces individually, or I no need to do the changes by on each and every policy associated to each and every access list, because I have a single policy. That policy is bound to the zone. You understand what I'm saying? Is that clear? Okay. In Cisco routers you have it. In Cisco ASA FTD you have it, but not on ASA. Interfaces, correct. Correct. Okay, one thing keep in mind, zones are mandatory in Juniper SRX. Without the zones you cannot bind the policies. Zone is a mandatory component. Okay, so one more point you need to remember, one interface can be part of one zone only. What do you mean by that? I can create multiple zones, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. It's possible. Okay, you have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, all are possible. I can have one interface in zone 1, I can have two interfaces in zone 2, I can have 10 interfaces in zone 3. You can keep that, but the point is, one single interface can be part of one single zone only. Beyond that, nothing is going to be happening. It's not possible. You understand? Assume that I have gig ethernet 0/0/0. I have created unit 0. That unit 0 can be part of zone 1. It cannot be part of zone 2 and zone 3 at the same time. At any single interface can be part of single zone only. Got it? Right. So that's the second component we need to understand. I don't know, people keep on calling me. Hello? Yes, speaking. I'm in the middle of a session. No, I don't do it. Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. So now that we understood what is interface and what is zone. Okay. Now the third component is the policy. What is a policy? As I said earlier, policies are nothing but the set of rules where we define what traffic is allowed or what traffic is not allowed. That's a key point. Of course, some additional functionalities can be added. Of course, we also have a dedicated section wherein which we will be understanding about the policies. We have a dedicated section. How to configure the policy, how to edit the policy, how do you apply the policies. All of them are going to be part of it. But as a basic understanding, we need to know what is a policy. Policy is a set of rules. It's a collection of rules. That's why we call policies as a rule base. Okay? A collection of rules are there. Now, where these rules are going to be applicable? Anyway, we know that your Juniper SRX is also a stateful inspection firewall. Okay, good. My point is, this stateful inspection firewall would require the policy to permit the traffic only from one direction, because the other directional traffic will be allowed. What I mean by that, if the request is allowed to pass through, the response can be allowed without having any specific rules. That's the point we are trying to say. So policies are collection of rules. The policies are going to be applied between the zones. Now you have to define this policy is applicable if the traffic is originated from zone 1 destined to zone 2. So the incoming zone and the outgoing zone needs to be known to the firewall to choose the set of policies based on which the traffic filtering can happen. Policy is a mandatory component without which no traffic can be permitted to pass between the zones. I mean, inter-zone traffic can be permitted only through the help of policies. Without the policy, no traffic is going to be permitted. Got it? Intra-zone policies, it purely depends. If you wanted to block it, you can block it. If you want to permit open, you can openly permit that one also. It's quite possible. But inter-zone traffic can be permitted only through the help of policies. Without that, nothing is going to be happening. Okay. Now, there is a question now. Interfaces are there, zones we understood, policies we understood. What is this routing instances? Now, let's say that. We have a firewall, okay? We have, let's say, zone 1, zone 3. Let's say this is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. And couple of interfaces here. I have couple of interfaces here and couple of interfaces here. Okay. Now I have some specific requirements. Not that we have to be restricting ourselves only with the 3 zones. We can also create more than 3 zones according to the platform. The number of zones that you can configure could be varying. Okay. But anyway, I just created 3 zones. Now, first point, the policies are going to be applied between zones, zone 1 to zone 2. Okay, now we have a permit to permit all. We have created this policy. My question is, how the firewall knows that my from zone is zone 1, to zone is zone 2? How the firewall will be knowing about it? Okay, let's assume that GE 0/0 is part of zone 1. Let's say GE 2/0/0 is part of zone 3. Now the firewall is receiving the traffic on this interface. Which interface? Gig Ethernet 0/0/0. The moment I receive the traffic on this interface, Gig Ethernet 0/0/0, because the interfaces are bound to the specific zones. Now interface Gig Ethernet 0/0 is part of zone 1, so that I know what is my from zone. I don't have any problem. But how do I know this is my to zone? Only then the respective policy can be selected, right? Only then the policy can be verified. How do I know that this traffic is going to this zone? How do we know about it? Upon receiving the traffic, right, what the firewall is going to be doing is it will do the route lookup. By doing the route lookup, if the route is there, only then I will be able to identify the egress interface. If there is no route, then obviously the traffic is going to be dropped there itself. I no need to go through the policy to check the policy whether it is permitting the traffic or not. I don't have any issues on that. Okay, I have from zone, I also have to zone. From zone is going to be identified by checking the ingress interface. To zone is going to be confirmed after doing the route lookup. Where the routing table will be there, I have the routing table on my firewall. As you have the interfaces are getting configured, the routing tables are going to be populated. So by having the IP addresses configured on my interfaces, the respective home networks will be created. Apart from that, you will also be in a position to create the routing table entries like statically or using the dynamic routing protocols. If you want the OSPF to be enabled, you want the BGP to be enabled, you can enable it. It's not a problem at all. But what is the purpose of it? Because you have some of the routers connected some of the places and you're enabling the routing protocols to exchange the routing information between each other so that the routing table can be populated. Once I receive the traffic on one of the interface, it will do the checkup of your routing table by comparing the specific entries. Then I will know this is my egress interface. Once I know my egress interface, I know that which of the zone it belongs to. Only then I'll be able to check the respective policies. Based on that, the filtering can happen. Clear? Yes. I'm not saying that the moment route lookup is happening, the packet is going to be forwarded. Route lookup is happening to identify the egress interface. Only then we know the egress zone. Okay, so then the respective policies are going to be verified. Accordingly, either the traffic can be permitted or denied. Okay, now my point is, as I have more number of entries, the size of the routing table will also be increasing. Okay, my requirement is zone 2 is not at all going to be communicating with zone 1 or zone 3. Let's assume like that. Okay, now this is where my one of the office is connected and the office 2 is connected here, office 3 is connected here. They are going to be simply talking to each other. No traffic from this office to internal network or to the internet is going to be allowed. They are all connected to my firewall so that the traffic can be flowing between their offices. Okay. Now, how much time it is going to be taking to do the route lookup if I have more number of entries? It will take more of time. Now, what I want is, I don't want any of the route lookup to cause any delay. If I'm going to be having a single routing table which holds the routing information of all the zones, all the interfaces, then the time taken for doing the routing lookup will be increasing. And that is going to be causing the route lookup delay. I want to reduce this delay. How this is possible? What I can do is, this is my zone 1 and this is my zone 3. Okay, zone 3 and zone 2. What I do is, I can attach the zone 1 and zone 2 one routing table and zone 3 alone into another routing table. I can do that. Have you heard about VRF? Okay, so okay, basically what is that VLAN? Okay, you have a VLAN, means you switch. You have a physical switch. By logically slicing them, this is a logical LAN 10, this is a logical LAN 11, 12. The members of the same VLAN, they can talk to each other. So logical slicing of the physical switches, you're doing it, right? Same way in routers, we slice the routing functionalities into multiple routers. Every logical instance is considered as a VRF, and that VRF can hold its own routing table. Now, as a firewall, as a layer 3 device, it also has the routing functionality. If you want to virtualize that routing functionality, you can do that. If you do that, which is called as route instances. What is the benefit? Now, zone 3 associated to routing instances 2. Okay, zone 1 and zone 2 is associated to a routing instance 1. Zone 3 is associated to a routing instance 2. Because of that, any traffic received on the ingress interface, like in zone 3, will consult only the routing instance number 2. It no need to consult the routing instance number 1. Because of that, you can slice up and you can reduce the number of entries in the routing table because of hello? No, I did not receive any call. Give me a minute, let me check. Yes, it's not visible. Probably I may need to share my screen once again, else I may need to restart my PC as well. Give me a minute, let me try to quit, then start once again. Okay, I think my network is slow on my, okay, fine. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm slicing the routing instances. What do you mean that? The routing tables on my firewall into more than one. I'm also attaching the zones to, what is it called? So I'm also attaching the interfaces to the respective routing instances. Because of that, any traffic received on that interface needs to consult only the associated routing instance, not the other. So by having multiple routing instances, you can reduce the number of entries in the routing table of each and every instance. So the time taken to do the route lookup can be drastically reduced. You understand what I'm saying? VRF is the logic, like VLAN in switches, VRFs on the routers. That logic is being implemented in SRX firewall as well by slicing the routing capabilities into logical instances, multiple instances. Then what happens? Okay, yes. So now what happens if you receive the traffic on one of the interface, that is going to be consulting the respective routing table only, because I belong to that routing instance. So I have to consult only that routing table. So any traffic received on this interface, no need to check the routing table of routing instance number 1. I have to check only the routing table of routing instance number 2. The benefit of this is, if I don't slice this, all the routing entries will be kept in a single routing table. It will take more of time to do the lookup compared to slicing. Okay. Now there is also one more point. That's what we understood with respect to what? The routing instances. There is something called as what? The logical systems. What is this logical system? Now, let's assume that you have a firewall. Okay. This is your firewall. Now you are a hosting service provider. Okay. You are a hosting service provider where the customers are going to be hosting their servers with you. So I have a customer A who has hosted some 10 servers with you, customer B who has hosted around 50 servers, and customer C who has hosted some 5 servers with you. Like multiple customers are hosting their applications with you because you are the cheap and best service provider. Now, even though the servers are hosted with you, do you think that you have all rights to decide who can be allowed to access the server of customer A, customer B, and customer C? You are the service provider. You are hosting the customer servers with you. Can you decide who can access customer A server, customer B server, or customer C server? Customer, not by you. Right, so now customer is saying that you hosted, give me the firewall, I write the rules. Now I'm keeping a firewall for customer A, keeping a firewall for customer B, keeping a firewall for customer C. I have 3 firewalls now. Customer A, customer B, customer C. Okay. Now the point is, you also need to think of the redundancy as well. So customer A, I'm keeping 2 firewalls. Customer B, I'm keeping 2 firewalls. Customer C also, I'm keeping 2 firewalls. Because of that, what happens? 6 firewalls I need to push on. Now, what is the cost involved in procuring this number of firewalls? Point number 1. Point number 2, what is the rack space required for hosting 6 firewalls? 2. What is the power consumption? What is the cabling requirement? All of them are going to be increasing. If I have one device, assume that 1 unit of power is going to be consumed. You have 2 firewalls for single customer, so 2 units of power is going to be consumed. You have a separate set of cabling management. Again, you have 2 more firewalls for customer B, 2 more firewalls for customer C. You have to do like this, right? So only then access to this firewall can be given to the customer. So customer can take the benefit of logging, you can use the login credentials shared with them. They can log in and they can start writing the policies on it. Whatever they want, they can do it. But my point is, as the number of customers increasing, the amount of rack space required will also be increasing. The amount of power consumption, the number of cabling, that is also going to be increasing. In turn, all this cost is going to be involved. Whatever the cost that involved in maintaining that infrastructure is going to be transformed as a bill to the customer. Okay, but the customer will be asking, what happened? You are charging more. That service provider is charging very lesser. How come that is possible? You might be wondering, because even though you have planning to provide a dedicated firewall for customer A, what he has is simply 10 servers. Even if you buy a basic model of your firewall, that can provide more, that is capable of doing more. You understand? Oh, why? See, if you're buying a basic firewall, it is capable of 100,000 connections, and it can allow you, just for an example, it can allow you some 100 hosts to be connected, out of which we are highlighting only 10 servers, not beyond that. Now, what will happen for the resources what we have paid? Can we call and tell the Juniper that I'm connecting only 10 servers? Can you please take back this 90 host connectivity and give me the return me the money? Not possible. That's where the logical slicing of the firewall is happening. What I do, I can slice the firewall into multiple firewalls. Okay, this is a logical system 1, this is the logical system 2, and this is the logical system 3. Within that logical system, if you want to have a single routing table, you can have single. If not, you can also maintain multiple routing tables as well. Then I have, within that routing table, of course, we have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, like that you can create the zones. And every zone will have the interfaces, one or more interfaces. You're getting my point, right? Okay, so interfaces provides connectivity, keep in mind. Zones allows us to group the set of interfaces with which they will be able to group the interfaces with which you will be able to apply the policies to the interfaces which are requiring the same level of treatment. Routing table or routing instances allows you to create multiple instances of the routing table. Policy is required for writing the permitting or denying the traffic. Logical systems are helping you to slice the physical firewall into multiple logical firewalls. Okay, so apart from that, you need to know about flow and session. What is a flow and what is a session? I think even before I start the architecture, I told you I have client A, I also have B. One is going to be acting as a client, the other one is going to be acting as a server. It can be, anyone can be client, anyone can be server, as long as they are receiving the request and they're responding for the request. Okay, let's assume that A is asking something, B is responding back with something. Okay, now from A to B, the request is called as a flow. From B to A, the response is also considered as a flow. Okay, now if these two flows are related to each other, together we call it as a session. Do you understand? Okay, A is asking, what is your name? It's a flow. B is saying that I'm coming from Chennai. It is also a flow, right? Do you think that this answer is the response for the request? Then it is not a session at all. Whatever the question is being asked, the respective answer should come back. This logically, okay? For example, if A is sending a SYN packet to B, what would be the response from B? Okay, that's what you need to understand. If the received packet is the response for the permitted request, then obviously it is a flow from server to client. Because it is related to the request what has been permitted, put together, we are going to be calling it as a session. Clear? Okay, this is what I have explaining you. Interfaces provides connectivity. Physical interfaces, it can be considered as an entry or exit point for a network. It can be logical interfaces. I think I may need to restart my PC. Not sure why this is going on. Morning and all, it was good. Okay, so interfaces provides connectivity. The interfaces can be physical or logical. Physical interfaces provides entry or exit point for network. Logical interfaces for some special purposes, something like your tunnel interfaces or loopback interfaces. So tunnel interface provides the tunnel termination, loopback interfaces to provide some connectivity. So what is that basically we are going to be doing is we are going to be creating this firewall. Okay, so we are going to be having this firewall. One of the interface will be connecting to your internal network, one of the interface will be connecting to the server, and the other interface will be connecting to the external router. In turn, we will be having the connectivity to the internet. So configuring the interfaces according to the setup diagram, this is what we have to do. Then configuring loopback interfaces, we have to do it. Okay, so anyway, we have to configure the zones. All these things needs to be done. We have to define the zone, understanding the different types of zones. Again, zones have security zones. We also have something called as functional zones. Those things we will see slowly. I'm not going to be talking about that. Don't worry about it. So this is the setup. We have to do it. To do that one, I need to turn on the server. If I turn on the server, it will take at least 7 to 10 minutes. I think it's good here to stop.